are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Third time's the charm.
No worries. How have things been since last week?
Good.
That's good. And you can't put a price on happiness. I'm actually reading a book right now that so interesting when it talks about the value of your time. And how, for example, hiring a cleaning person can sometimes be worth more in money than it is what you pay, because of the peace of mind, because of the time you get to spend with your partner, arguing even the fact that it's better than couples therapy in some instances, because that's what couples fight about often is chores, right? And so hiring that out just creates so much peace and gives you more time. Anyways, it's written by, of course, some Harvard researcher about what the value of time-saving activities are to your life.
Couldn't get so annoyed with me when I'm like, okay, but that's like 2-3 hours of my time. And do I need to be sometimes I'm just kind of in that robot thinking. It's hard work at the bottom. So I just, I don't have time for other things that take up too much of my negative headspace. I don't know. If it's not positive of my time, I don't want to do it. So.
Which will play lovely into our conversation, because that's what being financially self-sufficient is, right? That you get to make those choices, that you don't have to go to that job that's tearing you down so negatively, if you can get yourself to that safe plateau with your finances.
Yeah. Okay. Are you okay if we just jump in? Sorry
to go ahead.
Okay. Cool. So Tabatha, thank you for being here on the show. Again, third time's the charm. I posted about in the story, okay, I'm taking my friend's advice. We're going to cancel and just kind of regroup, because I had gotten some bad information. And I was just like, oh, hustling. I'm going to do my interview. And as soon as you asked me, are you okay? I just started crying. I just was not. So thank you for rescheduling. Thank you for authentically being here with me. I know I don't have to tell that story, but I think it's important because it's an important lesson.
Absolutely. Well, I think you and I talked that we just have this feeling as women a lot of times, we have to push through our emotions and our feelings, and it's okay to cancel things, and it's okay to take some time for yourself and process, especially when you get bad information, or even when you get good information, to stop and celebrate rather than just to go through to the next milestone. So happy to do it.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, and that's a good thing to think about too. Even when it's good, celebrate, sit and process, enjoy that time with your family and friends, because you can't always be in that hustle mindset. I've done it. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for your relationships, in my opinion.
So. No, and I'm very guilty of not stopping and celebrating those milestones, and that doesn't make the next milestone feel any better.
Yeah, no, me too. It's bad. We'll work on that. So let me introduce you guys, because Tabatha is pretty awesome. And we have a lot of things I want to pick your brain about and things that you want to pick my brain about. So Tabatha is a certified financial coach who believes that you can manage your money with a latte in hand. After making all the wrong financial decisions in her early 20s, she's pulled herself out of thousands of dollars in consumer debt, only to graduate college at the height of the 2008 crash. With no job prospects in sight, she went on multiple jobs while getting her graduate degree, and after grad school had over $35,000 in student debt and her dream job offered to her, but only to pay her $14 an hour. So Tabatha spent all of her 20s making and digging herself out of debt, now completely debt-free and investing heavily. Oh my gosh, I'm just messing this up. Hang on.
You're good.
Now completely debt-free and investing heavily towards her future. She took everything she learned about money savvy and turned it into an affordable financial coach texting service to share and motivate you to win and work. I said that wrong. Okay, you know what? This is why I don't do this on my show, you guys.
It's fine. We could just jump into talking. It's always hard to listen to these things too.
I want to be better at them. I feel like they're so inspiring, and what you're doing is so inspiring, but it's just not me to be Okay, so we're just going to talk about it. You have a text platform. You're
Yes.
motivating people every day.
Mhm.
And I think it's so important because just like, and you guys, it's science. It's proven. You go get therapy over time. If you keep getting therapy, you're benefiting something out of it. I don't think you'd keep going if you weren't. But also, I don't think you can get a benefit out of something like therapy if you don't go
Yeah.
continuously. So I think it's great that this is a continuous thing. You're not, hey, here's a magnet, follow these tips. Bye. You're like with these people, coaching them. Um, because there's a lot of mistakes that we make financially, and we make decisions out of emotion.
Mhm.
And I mean, we get a lot of freedom at 18 years old. And I don't know about you, but I shouldn't have a lot of money at 18 because I am not that financially smart. So tell me about what you're doing.
Yes. So the Money Mindset Makeover, it's a text messaging service that sends messages about every other day. And some are motivation, some are little quick wins that you can do to change your finances pretty instantly. And then there's just little assignments to help guide you along the way that overall changes your money mindset, because that's where it really comes down to, like you said with therapy, is it's a slow change, and you can read a book and feel super inspired, and then 2 weeks later, it's like, what did that book say? And I don't know about you, I'm a real, like, I read that book once, I don't read it again. And so this text service is that like little constant reminder, that little accountability buddy. And then the best part about it though is you can actually text me back. So if you have a financial question that pops up that you want some very specific advice on, I can message you back. In fact, one of my clients today messaged me because she was so excited about how much she put towards her debt last month. So it wasn't even a question. She was just wanting to share with someone who would be equally excited. And so I messaged her right back about how excited I was for her and congratulations for doing that, which, again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, like celebrating those wins and having someone that wants to celebrate with you.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, uh, that's so important because sometimes when we go through something bad, we don't think to text somebody, and then sometimes when we go through something good, we don't think to text somebody. I see a lot of people living their good life, and I mean, well, that's a whole nother subject. They're not posting about it, but I mean, do something to celebrate.
Yeah, and I think there's the safety within that too, because sometimes it can be hard to brag about like your accomplishments with money because you're worried about making other people feel bad, right? And so me as your money coach, I'm here to celebrate that and take you to that next level and not let you feel guilty about being excited about paying off debt or gaining wealth.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's so good. And again, you're like the five people you hang around with.
Mhm.
You guys, I love the people that I grew up with. I love my family and I love my friends, but some of them don't have the same goals as I do. And so a lot of the times I need to put myself around other entrepreneurs, or I need to listen to other business owners just to kind of reassure myself that I'm not alone in my mindset.
And that's, I think, a really good point is, sometimes we're surrounded by people whom we love and who we grew up with. And you're like, well, where am I going to find these friends that I can be with that are on the level up that I want to be? And sometimes a good transition is to go find those people and listen to their podcast, like come and listen to your show because they want to hang out with people like you, and create those voices in your head. And you're going to start to find those people pop up all around you.
Yeah, yeah. We had a lady at the digital event this last year, Emma Lou Penrod, and she talks about reinventing yourself. And the minute that you set your goal on something, everything else just kind of it's the same vision. Everything else just kind of lines up, and nothing can kind of take you away from that because you're so set on creating this special lifestyle for yourself.
Absolutely, but it starts with making that very conscious and vocal, like this is my goal. And
Yeah.
that same thing applies with your money, where you say, this is what my goal is. Things start to fall into place. But when we don't sit down and think about that goal, or even allow for us to dream about that goal, then we get veered off base at Target when we're like, well, I like these shoes.
Well, and
So
emotion, people are buying out of emotion, and
mhm.
that's a scary thing to do. That's why you guys, and you, some of you have worked in sales, so like you're showing them the shiny car before you're evaluating how much you're actually able to spend. And that's why they do it, because let's get you excited. Let's envision you in this car. And once you're in love with it, sometimes you're like, yeah, I only planned on doing this much a month, but I love it so much. We should do like, it's only $50 more a month.
Yeah, and it's really looking at the how and not really your why, right? Like it's why do I want this car? And when you get to the point of why you want a car is you want a car that gets you from A to B, gets you to your job, keeps you safe, and that's really your purpose for your why. Are the luxury options nice? Absolutely. But if your budget or what you've planned for is less than that, it's time to come back to that why of why do I need the new car? Is it because my old car keeps falling apart? I keep taking them to the mechanic to get fixed and it's not working anymore. Getting back to your true why.
Yeah, yeah. And sticking to that, because you need to be um, emotionally in control of yourself, especially when there's those sales guys or those shoes looking at you. Sometimes it's not even a sales guy, it's just me in Target. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I spent $80.
Yeah, we get that a lot. And I think that a great question to ask yourself, especially if you're in the moment of being in Target and looking at the outfit that you want, is to really ask yourself, is this an investment in myself? Because I really don't like to go with this advice of like, don't go to Target anymore or don't buy your daily cup of coffee, obviously, is a big one for me. But is this an investment in yourself? And when you do online shopping, it can be easier to put it in the cart, wait 24 hours, see if that really is an investment to yourself. But with this Target example that you and I keep using, look at the outfit, ask yourself that question, and then do a lap around Target to really think like, is it just because it's an impulse buy, or how do I consider that an investment in myself? Because my argument always is when you are buying things like coffee or your avocado toast or going out with friends that a lot of financial advice calls frivolous, sometimes that's a true investment in yourself. I live for my coffee dates with friends. That's so good for my mental health. And when the pandemic started, I started doing a Zoom virtual coffee with friends. And so to tell someone like me, like, oh, coffee is such a frivolous expense, like, no, that's my connection with people. That's how I connect with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's important. So what I do, and I don't know how much you're going to pick on me today, but in my financial situation, I really have to plan. So if I'm going to coffee with my friends, I try to go every Sunday morning. Um, I put aside the $10. So it's like $40, and I can just, that's less than getting my hair done or my nails done or something. And I don't stray away from that. That is $40 that I'm spending on myself that month. And that's what I'm doing. So I think it goes a long way when you plan on it. I used to, when I worked a 9 to 5, every payday I would go and I'd get my Starbucks and I'd go spend like $15 on myself and get like the breakfast thing and the nice drink. But I couldn't afford to do it every day. So I just did it every day on payday. And that was my little gift to myself. And again, I'm not a hugely get my nails done, hair done type of person, but it's important to schedule that stuff, whatever it is. But if you do choose to get your hair done, for example, maybe you can't afford to do something else. And I know people who really try to squeeze all of that in, and then they're complaining that they don't have the extra funds. But it's about that fine line and discipline, in my opinion.
Discipline. And I think I love that you would go do breakfast and coffee for yourself, because it's a celebration, right? Like a celebration of 2 weeks worth of hard work that you did and you went and celebrated that day. That's a fantastic way to look at it. And putting that money away and just having a plan that that's how I'm going to treat myself. Because also you have to keep in mind the reverse, right? If you did get it every single day, it's not a treat anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it loses some of its allure. And so to keep it a treat, you do it every 2 weeks. And you're right, when people try to do everything, I really think it comes down to them not asking the question, how is this an investment in myself? They want to do way too much. They really haven't sat down and thought about what their why is. Because for me, I do love to get my hair done. I do love to get my nails done and buy my coffee, but I drive a 10-year-old car. So I don't have a car payment. And, that my car gets me to and from where I want to go. It's a reliable car. And for other people, the priority might be having that nicer luxury car, right? So, but when I sit down and look at my why, it's my monthly hair appointment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's it totally makes sense. So I remember the first time that somebody put that in perspective for me, and she mentioned how somebody had wrote her and just said that she was so jealous that she travels so much and she does all this cool stuff, and there was just a picture of her on a camel and whatnot, and she's like, well, you buy designer clothes and you post about it. Like I know, I actually know what your spending habits are. And I can say that I don't do that. She's been living in the same house for years, driving the same car for years. And so yeah, it's that, but what can you afford? And some people don't like to live that way, but unfortunately it's the same thing. With your calendar schedule. If you're like, oh my gosh, why do I keep missing appointments? It's like, well, probably because you're not writing it down. You can't schedule something and dedicate yourself to something if you don't make a plan. It's just kind of, you set it.
Yeah, a plan is super important. And what I like to teach is how to do spending plans. I don't like budgets, they feel too micromanagey to me. I like a spending plan that makes sure that all your essentials get paid first, and then your essentials that you consider an investment in yourself. And so when money goes out from you, the way that I see it is it can only go out in three different ways. And that's giving to others, either charitably or gifts to others. I think everyone should give to charities and give first thing out of their income, because it's a real actionable step of an abundance mindset to say, I have enough so I can give to others.
Great.
And then that question of an investment in yourself, and a bulk of your money should be considered an investment to yourself. And it's a great way to shift your mindset about your bills, because your home should be considered an investment in yourself, whether you pay rent or mortgage. Your utilities, I mean, think about how angry all of us would be if we didn't have our internet, how angry we get when we don't have a day of internet. So even though we're sending off that money for that internet bill, to really think of that as like, this is an investment in me. This brings me a lot of happiness, whether it's through my video chats, through being able to watch movies with my loved ones, to be able to connect with the outside world. And then also your investments of whether that be your coffee or going out to eat with your friends. And then the third way is spending. And those are the things that I feel like we all have. You're never going to have zero spend, where you spend some money that you don't consider an investment in yourself, or you bought the stuff at Target that you actually don't love when you get it home. And to never try to make that category zero, but to have more of what's going out through investment. And so I have little worksheets that you actually fill all of that out. And when you do a review of your last 30 days, which really helps you kind of tease out what your priorities are, I don't actually include any numbers, because a lot of people get hung up on the numbers. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to look at all your transactions for the last 30 days and ask yourself that question. Is this something that I gave to someone else? Is this an investment in me, or was this spending? Mm-hmm. Because if you do need to make adjustments in your spending, what falls in that third category are the things that you have the least emotional attachment to, and those are going to be easiest for you to cut out, rather than someone saying, like, to me, stop buying your daily cup of coffee. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have a very stressful day job. This helps me get through.
Yeah. Well, and there's smarter ways, like especially, I mean, hang on, let me come back, because I feel like my audience is a mix of people who are either hold please. This is what happened. This is authentic.
Yeah, this is authentic.
Anyways, okay, back to conversation. Mindset, people, buying things.
You said your audience is
A mix of, I know a lot of people are having a hard time in the pandemic and they're laid off. They are literally penny pinching. They're, they've gone through some hard times. So I've heard some crazy stories. So I do definitely want to say situations can be temporary if we make the right goals and the right plans to get out of it. So obviously, if right now you can't afford your cup of coffee ever, like going out to get your cup of coffee every day, let's try to figure out what can we get you coffee in your house every day. Like, do you need a coffee maker? Because those are like $5-10 at Walmart, and we can make something sustainable that you feel like you're a little bit treated, especially because I don't think that poor people just deserve to not have luxury things too.
No, and that's where I really also like to change from the focus of constantly looking at how you can save money to how can you make more money. So there's been this post going around Instagram lately about $10,000 a year comes down to $27.40 a day. And how can you save 27 and 40 cents a day? And I changed that and I said, no, how can you make just $27 more a day so that you make that extra $10,000 so that you can still buy your cup of coffee. I'm listening to a book called Abundance Now by Lisa Nichols, and she talks about, your income should grow to fit the lifestyle that you want. And I think we get a lot of advice, and it's not bad advice to try and cut things out that spending wise don't make sense. Like you said, $15 for a breakfast at Starbucks with a latte, that's a sweet treat, but daily, it's not a treat anymore. Yeah.
Not for a single mom, no.
And it becomes pretty expensive. But how could you, if that was really your goal, was to be able to buy that every single morning, how could you increase your income by that much so that you could feel good about that purchase? And really think, and also, it could be temporary, it could be something long-term, you never know. I put out some suggestions because it's always awful to get that advice and then have someone like, just make $10,000 more a month. I'm done. It's fine. It's totally fine. I think I've sold things, like on, Craigslist or KSL. You can sell your electronics, like your old cell phones. There's little eco ATMs that you can sell things on. I loved during the holidays working at shoe stores for only like 8 to 12 hours a week because they pay holiday labor pretty well. And in particular, the one I worked at was commission, and I love shoes. And so I just got to talk to women about shoes all day. I loved it. It was so much fun. And I made extra cash through the holidays, plus got the discounts at the store. And there's a lot of ways that you can just try to find more income, because what I really want people to do is not to get into that penny pinching mindset, because I worry that people fall into that cycle and they don't ever think about, how do I increase my income from here? In particular, I think for women, because a lot of that penny pinching is geared towards like coupon clipping and how do you negotiate with the internet and how do you negotiate to get this lower. And instead, let's talk about, how do you negotiate to make a higher salary? How do you negotiate so that you can work a job with flexible hours that fit your needs as a mother? That give you the time that you want, and focus on those negotiations more so than fighting the internet to go down for $5 a month.
Yeah.
I have left jobs because you can negotiate higher pay with an employer that doesn't know your salary than one that you do. And I've been able to see my income increase significantly by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good thing for anybody job switching right now, kind of know your worth. And a lot of the times we did an interview with a woman who was upper management at Wells Fargo for a long time. And she said none of the women would ever negotiate salary with her. It was always the men. And guess what? The men got it. They weren't just saying, oh, we don't think you're worth it. Because when you go to someone and you say, look, here's how much I think I'm worth, here's how much other people around me are making, what do you think? That really does challenge them to just kind of fill in the blanks. And you don't really have to do much after that, because if someone tells you you're not worth that much, it's the conversation. Well, why? Like,
Yeah, especially if you come in with data, that's really hard for them to argue. And to also put on the table things that, let's say you do go to your employer and they just don't have the means to pay you extra, but they agree with you that they see that value. What are other negotiables that you have on the table? You know, the pandemic has brought this whole new suite of, okay, I'm going to do this, but I work from home on Mondays and Fridays because I want to be home when my kid gets home from school and I want to be able to see him off to class. Or I want to be able to work odd hours from home so that I can be off to go on the field trip that day, and to put those negotiations on there. Because if they say no, but they feel badly, they want to pay you more, then you can come back with some real things. Now, if they say no to that, go look somewhere else, is what my opinion is on that. But to really think outside of the value of even just cash, but like what's more valuable to you, and to say, okay, but here's how I want to work and here's how my schedule's going to look moving forward.
right. And a common mistake that I've seen with some friends is getting a job when you're comparing jobs, and let's say this one makes 17 an hour, but how far away from it is it from your house? Is it something that you can perform and that you want to even do?
Mhm.
Do you have how much are you spending in transportation? And a lot of employers, when they advertise 17 an hour plus benefits, um, I know for a fact they're not just giving you benefits. That's coming out of your paycheck. You're still paying taxes. So ask yourself, what is that exactly? Because sometimes it comes out to only be $12 an hour, even though it's advertised as 17, because the psychology of marketing, you guys, it's been around for years.
That's a good point too. You know, if you look at your pay stub and you don't understand everything coming out, that's what your HR department is for. Go to them and get a real understanding of what's coming out of your check too. Because there could be things, some employers automatically sign you up for things, and you're like, I didn't even know I had that benefit, and that I could even say no to that benefit, right? A lot of employers, I think, the laws have changed so they can't auto sign you up. I know they used to be able to auto sign you up for like 401ks and things, and you had no idea.
Mm.
Um, but understand what's coming out, and then understand also when it comes to your taxes. Because if you get a big refund and that's something you look forward to, great. But if you could use that money every single month rather than just in March when you file your return, you can get that out earlier and have your HR people explain that to you and how you can adjust your taxes. And a CPA might be helpful, but really just to understand, because it might be more helpful to get that $100 or $200 a month than to get it all in March.
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up. So I used to work in HR, and we won't
Yeah.
get into it too much, but there is a lot of shady thing. And then unfortunately, you guys, HR is just the face of somebody else's mistake. It's so hard. Those guys didn't actually go in and grab anything from your paycheck. Somebody down the line did it. You bring it to HR's attention. Hopefully they're kind, they care about the issue. And um, that's, what HR is supposed to be the face for. But no one needs to go beat up your HR department, but those things, that is important, because I don't even know if a lot of people know about that. Because again, I grew up in poverty. So I know a lot of people who getting their first job, they were asking me, how do I fill
Yeah.
out my employer form? They ask the employer there, because they're just not, they don't have the life experience. And yeah, it's just hard.
Well, and a lot of people don't. That's the thing, until I did taxes for about 3 years. I didn't even understand how it worked. It's a very unneeded, overly complicated system. But it comes down to that, why, if maybe you don't have to penny pinch as much as you think you do, because there's money going out of your check that the government is holding until you ask for it back, that you could be getting access to, that could really bring you to a safer plateau with your money that you need to, especially in this pandemic, because your taxes might be shaken up and you might be making less, which usually will give you a higher return at the end of the year. So I mean, ask your HR, and that's a great point. That nobody in HR is purposely doing something shady, and they don't know that you don't understand or have questions until you go to HR. Because most of the time, I found when I go to HR and I have questions, they're happy to explain it to me, show me how that's a benefit to me, and how they can make adjustments if needed to on my check too.
Yeah, yeah. And that's how it should be. And again, there's plenty of places, opportunities going on. And there's nothing shameful in going to work anywhere that you're happy. I don't care if it's do you know how much waiters and waitresses make? Like, I mean, maybe not right now in the pandemic, but there's still opportunities going on. It's so rough. It's so weird right now to like, okay, but there are, like, I don't want to lie to people. There are things going on. And generally the people who haven't been affected, because I know a lot of people who haven't lost their jobs. I know a lot of people who, their jobs weren't affected and they got a stimulus check. And so they have been going out in the community and they have been tipping extra well and they have been putting it forward, and not trying to take advantage of the system. So there are a lot of good opportunities and things out there. So I'll put that vibe out there as I'm like, like diving on all of it.
No, I love the point that you're making, right? Because this is where coming back to that question of, is this an investment in me, is so important, okay? Because I like to say that question around rent or mortgage. For me, I need a stable home place to stay at night. I know people who love to travel and they don't know where they're sleeping at night because they're going to go to the next hostel or the next town, or, for them, what an investment is the camper that fits in the back of their truck because they just want to travel and do odd jobs. RVers, there's sailboat people. That lifestyle gives me so much anxiety.
Mhm.
But if you are working a 9 to 5 to pay a mortgage on a home that you don't love and would much rather be living that nomadic lifestyle, you know what? Why are you working somewhere where you don't want to work to live in a place you don't love?
Yeah.
You have the choice to make that, it doesn't, your financial wealth and your financial stability doesn't have to look like a banker on Wall Street with a heavy 401k. It can look like someone who loves to travel and works odd jobs to make that happen.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to tell you this story about a friend's dad. He's the barber. And I remember when I was very young, kind of walking in his house and I was like, oh, like this is small. This is like kind of judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that he didn't really have a ton of money to like spend on his kids if an emergency happened and whatnot. But every Sunday and Monday he would have off, and Sunday was his rest day. And then Monday he would go fishing and he would go take coats and sleeping bags and blankets down to the homeless people every Monday. And I seen him a couple years later, and he kind of left my vision too fast. But I wrote him and I was like, I just want you to know, like, I've thought about you since I discovered what being happy and stable is.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a barber, he got to control his hours. He got to control his clients, which is a huge thing. Sometimes in work, like if you work at a call center, you don't get to control who you're working with or what you're doing. So maybe something like doing hair or nails, like you get to control your clientele better and just have like, I'm not gonna lie, it's hard work. There's a lot of things that go with it. But to me, in that aspect, and just looking at his situation, I know how hard it is to go to a job and then my manager changes because they're like, hey, I know you got along well with this team and this manager, but he found a different opportunity. Like things happen. And so there is a lot of reward, for working with yourself. I would say it's super, um, it is hard work. I mean, everything in life is hard work because again, like going to that call center job, I'm like, that is hard work for me to get up every day and pack my lunch and drive 30 minutes to work and go sit at a computer chair somewhere that's not my house. Um, there's a lot. So it's just like, what do you want to sacrifice and what do you want to do and make those decisions? Because sometimes you buy that car and you buy that house and you are flipped on equity. You are flipped on a lot of things that it could possibly take you years to make it out of certain things. But it's important to be aware, because I feel like there's like Google or YouTube your problem. There's a financial coach out there somewhere, and
Yeah.
get a hold of it now. If you're listening to the, or if you've clicked on this interview, I have to assume that you want some sort of financial guidance. And Tabitha, we asked our audience, hey, is this something you want to learn about? And 97% of people voted, said yes. We had one person that said no. So, yeah, I think what you're doing is great. It's needed. It's the heart of our stress, you guys, relationships. Whether you feel confident, it unfortunately and fortunately comes down to money. And it is something you can learn to get in control of, even if you were born in not such a great situation and not the greatest opportunities.
Absolutely. And having a financial stability where you feel at peace with your finances really opens up so much opportunity to you as well. Because once you get out of that survival mode with your money, you start to see these opportunities that you kind of had blinders to because you were negotiating with the internet company and you were negotiating to keep the lights on. When you get to where you've discovered your why, what's important to me financially, and get to where you have your own clients, like you said, and a home that fits your needs, you start to see all these opportunities open to you for what you choose your happiness to be. I love that. So I have some questions to ask you from my Money Mindset Makeover that really are about changing your mindset and diving into this further. So you're ready to do some of these questions? I have this one, and this one might spiral us out of control on tangents, which is totally fine. That's why I got to start with
That's the show. Okay, yeah.
So what is your opinion when you think of rich or wealthy people? Let's not call any names of any particular rich or wealthy people out, but like even when we hear a lot of the 1%ers on the news, what do you think of when you think of rich, wealthy people?
I mean, off the bat, I would say people who have money. I don't know how else to really describe that.
Do you consider them greedy? Do you consider them anything like that? Is it negative at all?
No, I would say in the people, in my experience, it's just been that they're firm. It's not that they don't feel bad they don't give away their money as easily, I guess. Not that they don't have a tender heart. And it's not like I know when everybody's donating, but what I do find is the people who have money, whenever I've seen other people ask them for money, even if they've had it, they just said, I'm sorry, I can't. And even if it was a hard decision to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you, they still chose to say it.
Interesting. So I ask this question because there is a lot of feeling of negativity towards rich people, like that they're greedy, that they don't donate to causes, that they employ people at really low wages, that they're not being altruistic with their money, right? Especially when we hear this like 1%er, right? And I love that didn't come front of mind for you.
It used to. Like I feel like I'm pretty self-aware now, but definitely had you asked me that question like 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, like a trust fund baby.
Yes, exactly. Well, and you posted this question too on your Instagram of, is money evil? And most people I saw from when I answered it said, no, it's not a person, but people think rich people are evil sometimes, right? And like you said, 5 years ago, I mean, I certainly had that same thought process when I started my career. I really was like, corporations are evil. And I've only worked for nonprofits my whole life. And then I went and worked for a corporation and they were the kindest, nicest people I'd ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And the reason that I asked that question is because if you equate rich and wealth with bad, why would you want to become a rich or wealthy person? Because you don't want to be a bad person, right? So if you have that mindset that rich and wealthy people, people who have money, are bad, you are likely self-sabotaging yourself because you don't want to be a bad person. So thereby, by maintaining my financial instability, I'm a good person, right? Because we always hear that adage, like, oh, they don't have a lot of money, but they're a great person, right?
Get
Well,
the shirt off their back.
yeah, exactly. Well, I know a lot of wealthy people who would give their shirt off of their back as well. And so in this particular activity that I encourage what we talked a little bit about in earlier in the interview is finding those people that are wealthy that you can listen to podcasts or on YouTube, or that are incredibly wealthy and generous and embody what you would like to become as a wealthy person. Because all money really does is 10x what you do with your money right now. So if you give, I give around 15 to 20% of my income every year. If my income grows, I just give more as I go, right? And I know a lot of people who are very generous with their income. And so imagine with more wealth, what would you do? A lot of people would be like, well, I'd give more. And so changing your mind, like you said 5 years ago, and same for me, around that being wealth isn't bad, and it's actually going to allow me to do better things if I become wealthy.
Yeah. And I had that conversation recently that, and a lot of organizations, you guys, and corporations, they are providing jobs. They can't always get, I mean, I guess not going to say names, but I think of, again, people I grew up with, and they had rich dads and they wanted to ask their parents for money all the time. And their dad, he can't, he feels bad for the situation. He gets that, the kids messed up here, or they do need help, or they do have this good business idea and they do believe in the idea, but it wouldn't be financially smart to make that decision. And there's actually I would love for people to get aligned with that is sometimes your time. And I can think of a lot of scenarios where people are giving away their time and I'm like, hey, did you get this done that you said you were going to get done for yourself? And they're like, no, because my cousin needed this and this and this and this. And they went and helped, which I totally believe. I'm a huge, Simon Sinek follower. If I could be like anybody more in the world, it would be him. And I truly believe in getting lost in the service of others when we can. But when it's going to deplete you, or you don't actually have time for it and you're canceling things or moving things around and disappointing people that you had made plans with, that's probably not the healthiest way to give away your time. It's just as bad as giving away money that you shouldn't be giving out, in my opinion.
Yes. So many things on what you just said right there that I love so much. First of all, Simon Sinek, what a great person to follow, right? I don't know what his wealth is. I imagine he's doing very well for himself financially, but what a great person to idolize as a wealthy person and giving back, right?
Yeah.
Another thing, when you are in a financially stable place, that frees up so much of your time to go out and volunteer. I always believe, as someone who's worked for nonprofits my whole life, that you should volunteer at a nonprofit before you give to it to really see if it matches what you want, because how an organization treats their volunteers is so tied to how great that organization is. And I give money to organizations that I have volunteered and worked with, even though I don't live in that state or that city anymore, because of that dedication and how well they treated their volunteers and how well they were using their resources. And so we give a lot of our time right now, but imagine how much more impactful your time can be if you weren't constantly having that nagging in the back of your head, oh, I need to do this, or I need to accomplish this. And I think the third thing there is you really do have to ask, is this filling my cup? And it not only filling my cup, but overflowing my cup. Because, and I can't remember who said this, and this is so brilliant, but you should never pour from your own cup, but you should pour from the saucer from your overfilling of your cup.
Mm.
And the more that you give back and more that you feel fulfilled in what you do, that you pour from your saucer to others rather than pouring from your own cup.
Yeah, that's really good. In fact, so when someone explained to me the cup analogy, I was 20 years old, and I remember it was actually in a negative light. It was like, hey, this cup is filled with you've got too much going on. And now it's overflowing because you've got too much in here. So we need to take it out so your cup is just it's the right amount. And that analogy was the first time that it made sense for me. And then someone brought up the good cup. And it's,
Yeah.
what is the good cup? And it's overflowing. I was like, oh, I like that a lot better, because you can't when when we're drained like that, there's not a lot you can give. And in those scenarios specifically, if we don't want to end up like our parents who made poor financial decisions or our friends that make poor financial decisions, we have to do something different. That's just what it is. And you can't do different if you're around the same things and you're doing the same things. So you need to make sure that you're putting a hard stop to it. I like Mel Robbins, check her out. But yeah, like do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nope. Doing this. Schedule it out. Be that person. Um, because yeah, financial, it's gonna run your mindset if you let it and you're not doing it right. Like you said, the house is a great thing to look at. I ran across some YouTuber and she said, well, I was really unhappy working this thing and paying this. So I got rid of my biggest bill, which was my rent.
Yeah.
So bye. And she got
And
herself a camper.
exactly. And for some people, that's happiness, right? And for some people, they're going to look at their mortgage payment or their rent in such a different light when they consider it an investment in themselves, right? Like, this is my place that I come home and can relax after a stressful day. You know, if this is my safe haven, I'm going to look at my rent payment in a whole different way.
Mm-hmm. And something to our audience, because obviously, if you had 3 kids and you are just now kind of coming awake to your finances and you're like, okay, well, I can't just sell my house. I have 3 children that I have to take care of. Maybe you don't need that house, or maybe you can go temporarily plan out a different plan that works better for you. Maybe you go stay somewhere cheaper until or again, we make more money. We can start investing in stocks. We can start downloading apps and learning about that. I heard a quote one time that was, if you have one source of income, you're one source of income away from poverty. And it was the scariest thing I
Oh,
ever seen. So I don't know if that triggers you. I don't know if that's a bad thing to say here, but it's
no.
true. Like
Yeah.
imagine if that job, so I had a really great job one time at a collections for cars and auto loans. And we would go, I was in the department that would go look for cars after they were missing for too long. And so I'm constantly dealing with people who don't have money. And I can tell you, for the most part, collectors don't care. If you're really lucky, you're going to get a collector that cares and explain. And that's why I liked it, because you are every day, you're working with somebody that's in trouble. Like their car is about to repossess. They're not in a good situation. So even those scenarios, I'm going way off on a tangent, but those scenarios, a lot of the times we don't know when we're doing, for example, extensions on your car payments. Did you guys know that if you crash your car and you had a gap insurance on your car, which don't ever get a car loan and don't get gap insurance. That's like my advice. I mean, don't get a car loan. If you could just buy your car, that's great. But don't get the gap insurance. That's going to hurt you. But also the payments on your car, every day you're late, you're accruing extra interest. And if you crash your car and the gap insurance pays for it, the gap insurance doesn't care about you. Maybe your collector did, maybe the agent did that helped you, but there's all these sneaky little policies that now that your car is crashed, they will not pay any day that you had done like an extra, what is it called, like payment arrangement for, or you missed a day, or maybe you told yourself like it's okay, like it's only like 2-3 days late. You're accruing like $7 worth of interest every day, And those 3 days, even though it's not going to hit your credit, and you're right, it was pretty insignificant. And, what's the chances that you're going to crash your car in 6 years? The whole, like 6 years is a lot of things can happen in 6 years. Your company could go out of business. So it's important to be aware of the things that could possibly hurt you long term. So, let's not make that Target purchase and put off our car payment for 3 days.
Yeah.
Let's make a better plan, because those things do hurt you. And another tangent, I think it's really important for single moms to not single moms, moms that are working or staying at home while their husband works. I see this all the time in mom groups that they say, oh, well, I want to contribute to my household. Ladies, what do you think they would do if you weren't home with the baby? Like, what would they would be taking, and even if it's like a co-parenting situation, they would be taking the baby to their mom's house or to a babysitter's house. That costs time, that costs gasoline, that costs, once you have children, buying a $500 car probably isn't the smartest thing. You maybe want a car that's a little bit nicer to take the kids in. So I mean, now you have to have the house. Like there's a lot of things that go into it, but also full-time daycare. Maybe you are actually saving money by staying in the house, but you also need your partner to understand that you need your coffee dates. It is an investment to put out that $40 because you stay home and you save $1,400 a month by staying home and being with the kids. And you get to go out every Saturday or Sunday with your friends because that's your treat. That's your help to the house.
Your point could not be more valid. I really think it's important, especially talking about finances, that we really talk about valuing time, because go look this up. If you go look at insurance companies for life insurance, and the value, you can Google this, the value of a stay-at-home mom is over $100,000 a year, because you're likely just not at home taking care of the kids. You're also cleaning, you're doing the grocery shopping, you're probably managing the finances, everything. There's some great breakdowns on great articles about your financial worth to the household by being a mom, and the parenting and the teaching that you do. I mean, really, honestly, parents, the stay-at-home parents right now are probably like $250,000 a year, because they also had to be teachers this last year, right? With staying at home, and your value is certainly there, and your spouse needs to be on the same page with you, that is going out and working. And that, again, you say, for me, there's so much value in going out to coffee with my friends, because I don't get a day off. I don't get a paid day off from work, right? But I get to go hang out with my friends, and then we trade off days. I take the kids to their house and I get to have a me day by myself where I can get the house back in order or go out and get my hair done. And then I take care of, there's ways that I really want you to negotiate your worth. I'm also a fan of Simon Sinek, and listening to his book about your why right now. And the why behind the business Buy Your Daily Cup of Coffee is that I just want people to know that you have value, and it has nothing to do, your worth has nothing to do with your net worth. You are always worthy. And a lot of these impulse purchases and these emotional purchases that we make are because we feel like we're trying to increase our value, right? We're trying to say, if I buy a luxury car, then I'll be a more valuable person. If I buy this outfit at Target, I'm a more valuable person. The truth is, you are valuable regardless. And you get to decide if you're worth that investment and what investment means the most to you. And so, yeah, I really, that was a fantastic tangent. I loved that.
Thank you. I don't hear that about my tangents that often. That's a good one. So yeah, sometimes it's like, whoa, and it started over here and it ended over there, but it's good. So I'm really passionate about, people just loving their life. And it's just, money is a huge factor in all of it. And I can't believe that we've already spent an hour talking.
I know, my mind is blown. I just saw the clock too, and I was like, what?
That was the fastest hour. I appreciate you so much. You guys, please align yourself with the right side of your worth. This isn't even just, money talking, but it will be that way when you don't have it. And when you really, really need it, that you're going to have to face it. You can't hide from everything forever. So it's important that we get on the right side of controlling that for yourself.
Absolutely. You're so valuable and you're so worth it. And just like in a stock, if you invest money in a valuable stock, if you invest money in you are going to add so much more value to that original money, and you're going to have a really high return on investment for yourself by investing in yourself. So I am going to do a shameless pitch here that you can go to buyyourdailyycupofcoffee.com and buy the Money Mindset Makeover there. It's just $9 a month for that program. And then you can also do one-on-one help with me too. And the best way to get a hold of me is to DM me on Instagram at buyyourdailyycupofcoffee.
Perfect. And we'll have all your information linked in the description. So if you guys are just listening, come back to the episode, get her information. And I think it's great. Just like, so Gary Vaynerchuk is also another big one of my influences, and he has a texting platform, and I get messages back from him all the time. And I'm just like, oh, that's so great. And yeah, I mean, that's a little, he's a celebrity and whatnot, but as far as like my coach, I love texting her, and then I know like she can't always write me back like right away, but I know she's there for me, she's rooting for me, and she does get back to every message. She doesn't miss a message. So I think it's important to have Coach Tabatha behind you, and especially working towards the same goals as you, because sometimes your friends don't always want to hear all this overnight. Like they got their own junk to worry about. So yeah, but no, you guys can all hop on the app. So it's $9 a month. And then so you send out a text every day. And it's not just like a text. Sometimes they're like little prompts.
So it goes out about every other day.
Okay.
And there's little motivations, things like telling you that you're worth it, that your net worth isn't tied to it, little wins that do talk about how you can make some quick saves with money or ways that you can make extra money. And then little assignments where I ask you questions that really dive into your personal mindset. And then I also send out the worksheets and reminders to review and plan your money for the next month. And then acknowledge that maybe you didn't get to it that week and that you should try again this week.
Yeah. No, that's great, because self-reflecting is huge. Sometimes you just need to self-reflect in front of somebody that's a little bit more qualified to hear about your problems. And then you still figure it out.
Yes.
So, okay. Well, Tabatha, thank you so much for joining me. This was like the fastest hour. Okay. That was the fastest, again, just 5 minutes now. I love spending time with you.
Well, I love spending time with you. I am so grateful for you. So grateful for all that you're putting out in the world through the Mom Show. I loved it, and I'm not a mom. I just think that what you do is so incredibly valuable, and so I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, I love to talk to anybody and everybody. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a mom, you're raised by a mom, you're raised by somebody. We're all here for a stronger purpose, and I just love what you're doing and what you're putting out in the world. So thank you for being here.
Thanks. We'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Okay, guys, go check out her information. Again, linked below, Tabatha.